For instance, when we look at Aristotle's words, when we look at the descriptions of the Quran, we see a correspondence.
Well,
that is
you haven't shown
evidence.
us any correspondence.
Yeah, that's the point. That's just a
You
statement.
haven't shown us. It's just a statement. Aristotle is like the Quran. How? How?
Aristotle also describes the emergence of bones and muscle in sequence.
Right.
Okay.
And it's like the Quran.
And it's like the Quran. Which
Well, does Aristotle say the bones come first and then the flesh and the muscles? Does he say that? Are you sure?
Anybody that works.
I'll let you think about this.
Well, if you, are you? Is that what?
I'm not saying it. Can you? Are you sure?
Is that what the Quran specifically says?
Absolutely. This is exactly what the Quran says. Chapter 23.
Because you just demonstrated the Quran is wrong.
Yeah, but P Z Meyers.
That's not what happens in the
Well,
book.
this is what the embryologists are telling us. This is
no,
exactly what the
not.
embryologists are telling us.
No, they're not.
Okay. Let me tell you what Keith Moore said. I mean, you can disagree with him.
He doesn't like Keith Moore.
I don't know why you don't. What he said on the page number 364A of his book, The Human Embryo, that in the 7th week the bones are formed, and immediately after that the flesh is formed, and the flesh, the bones are clothed with flesh. Well, Keith Moore is wrong. He's an embryologist. This is his field.
It's my field too. I know he's wrong.
You're an embryologist?
Yes.
Oh, great! Wow, wow, that's news to me. Okay.
So that's wrong, because what happens first is you have differentiation of mesoderm.
Right.
That within the mesoderm you have segregation into things like embryonic mesenchyme, and then you have these cartilaginous centers that will form bone.
Right.
And these are forming simultaneously with each other.
Right. Simultaneously.
Yes.
Even if that's the case, the Quran is right, because thumma is very, even if that's the case, linguistically the Quran is right. Thumma literally can in Arabic language means things happening simultaneously. Yes. Yes.
But that's besides the point.
On the one hand, you are complaining that there's this detailed, wonderful science in the Quran that you could only have learned from, revelation.
Sure.
And I'm saying that no, that what you find in the Quran is an extremely primitive science. There was nothing more than the common man could have learned from, general interactions with learned society at the time.
Like mountain roots as well. How would they even know that? It was not even knowledge at that time.
Mountain roots. Whoop-de-doo again. It's all it's saying is that you've got this mountain that's going up here, and there's a lot of depth beneath it.
And then they would understand the function of that as well.
Yes. The function of the Quran is
absolutely
to anchor the crust and things like, and that's not the case. That's again wrong
It's
geology.
not to anchor the crust at all.
What is it for?
It's actually to, from my knowledge, it's actually to, like Archimedes' fulcrum point. Like that's what isostasis come from. It's like another term to discuss the Archimedes' fulcrum point, and that's what it's there for.
A miracle of miracles. There are verses in the Quran which give us facts which could not be known by a man living in the 7th century Arabian desert. The Quran talks about different things. The Quran talks about scientific miracles. For example, the Quran talks about embryological stages a child goes through in a mother's womb. And these stages are microscopic. And we recently published a research on that point. And one of the atheistic scholars, P Z Meyers, who is an embryologist, who sent this paper to him, and he stated that these verses cannot be refuted because the language is so vague. In other words, the language is so appropriate that it cannot be refuted in the line of modern science. These verses cannot be refuted because the language is so vague. These verses cannot be refuted because the language is so vague. In other words, the language is so appropriate. In other words, the language is so appropriate.
When I say whoa!
These verses cannot be refuted because the language is so vague. In other words, the language is so appropriate that it cannot be refuted in the light of modern science.
I mean, whoa!